And well, hello everyone, and hopefully everybody's having a great holiday season. Considering all the above, the COVID year has been a little rough. Just my endorsement, uh, and again, the information about the company is going to be on the description of the show, and it'll also be available public. That's just another feed that took over. It happens with the live. So as I was saying. This has been a little interesting year for a lot of folks, and we've had a few shows covering a lot of items. And today we're going to have a unique show discussing an industry that's been impacted by COVID, and it's an ordeal, and it's certainly a challenge for many. And this is one part of the industry that we're going to discuss, but it affected a lot. And I think our guest today can tell us a little bit more about the different pieces of the industry that were impacted through the conversation and the interview we have today. Now, first of all, again, Hurricane H here, with you guys as usual. This is the iHealth channel, and you're also listening on iHealth Radio. And I have a special guest. As I always say, my guests are special. I have Megan. Megan, she's from Wanderlust Voyages. She's actually the owner and I guess president of the company. And what they do is unique travels or exotic travels primarily to the one and the only exotic land, Morocco. They do have other, things that they do, but they specialize in Morocco specifically. And again, as I was mentioning a minute ago, is we're discussing the concept of how COVID impacted different industries. And today, specifically, we're talking about travel. And all the travel agencies out there, we've seen the news, the airlines, the cruise lines, I mean, you name it, they've been, but not a lot of people are talking about travel agencies themselves and some of the businesses that are really impacted, throughout their course. And so with Megan today, we're going to address some of those. We'll talk about a little bit about the Wanderlust Voyages and what they do. And then we're going to talk about how, they have perceived COVID and how it impacted them, and also like some solutions and how they dealt with it over the last few months, and what are their plans for the next few months as we are moving away, hopefully, from COVID with all the changes with the vaccines and so on and so forth. Now, again, we try to keep it always within the healthcare and the health industry, and certainly what we're covering today is impacting, a component of people like to travel, and travel is important, not because it's just fun. That's part of it. That's like an aftermath or an after effect. But really, it is important for your mental state, for your mental health, for your own relaxation, and a lot of things. And you can have, a lot of different types of travel. And it's dear to me personally. That is actually my background, as I was, a tour guide, when I first started in Disney. And so I was in the travel industry. I also worked in the travel agency in New York a long, long time ago. I'm not even going to state what year was that. but my background is in tourism and travel industry sales and marketing. Now, with that being said, it's not about me. This is about Wanderlust Voyages and Megan. So Megan, tell us a little bit about Wanderlust Voyages and, your whole concept, and then we'll take it from there.
So, thank you so much for having me, first of all. I know
Pleasure.
that we've been trying to get this scheduled. My co-owner of Wanderlust Voyages, Belghit, is huge fan. He actually sent you something where he was listening to your station while we were driving through the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, until, of course, it cuts out because Atlas Mountains.
My
So
antenna's up there. uh,
So, Wanderlust Voyages, as you said, is focused on Moroccan travel. We really want to share the beauty and the wonder of Morocco with everybody. So, we began with the first time that I went with Bill to the Sahara Desert. It was the most magical experience. And this was in spite of completely freezing, could not sleep because it was so cold. It was Christmas Day, 2014. And we decided that this is amazing we want to bring everybody. I wanted to bring everybody. I thought everybody should experience it. And when we were talking through, like, okay, well, if we bring this people, and we're going to need this many trips, then it just kind of snowballed from there. And we're going to take everybody. So now we are focused on providing custom travel. And some of it is still group travel, where a group will have a shared similar interest. For instance, we have one group going very soon where they're celebrating a 40th birthday. We have had groups go, a group of chefs, and so we were really focused on the food in Morocco. We have golf groups coming up, and then we also do a lot of individual travel. And so whatever it is people are looking for, if they want to focus on the culture or the food or the music or the history, if they want to see everything or just really stay put in one place and explore all there is there, then we can handle any of it.
Very
Apologies,
good.
you're going to see a cattail pass by a couple times.
That's okay. Cats are fun. So Megan, I know you've gone to Morocco a few times before you even started this venture, and ultimately you love the place and the what it has to offer, right? And there's a lot of it. I mean, it has become one of the probably hottest destinations in the world when you're looking for something different, exotic, yet still modern in a way. I mean, it's almost like, as I always described it, is like East meets West. It's like you can travel in time back and forth, within a 5 minute, span, right?
Exactly.
That's kind of like what it is. It's also a diversified land where a lot of different things are there. I mean, you can be in the mountains, you can be in the sea, you can be the Mediterranean, the Atlantic. I mean, you have it all, right? But so that was the exciting part, right? And it was working well. And I know that we were supposed to even go on a trip, that got canceled, unfortunately. But so then everything is going good, and February comes, and we have our dear friend COVID. I won't call it a friend, but COVID has become a problem. And so how was that impact initially for you guys? Because I remember you were, I think, in a trip. You were there.
Yeah.
So tell us about that with your group and the experience, and how was it for you? How was it for the clients?
So we had a group there. They were either the last or second to last normal flight out. And that was thankfully, like, they're just regular scheduled flights. And it was very quick because we were, of course, watching how things were going. And it was actually in March when they were really getting going. And like, okay, well, there's only this many cases. There's not very many. And of course, with Belghit being on the ground with our group, he was able to keep tabs on it very well on the ground. And I want to say it was maybe after the first death in Morocco that they decided, okay, we're shutting the borders. And we initially thought it was going to be very short. Bilgit was supposed to fly back in April. We're like, okay, it should be fine. It'll be open by the time he flies back. And that unfortunately did not happen. So everything really came to a screeching halt. It was, okay, nobody's going in, nobody's going out. We managed to get all of our travelers who were on the ground out. Thankfully, we didn't have to deal with like people being stranded. And it was almost surreal, and it was something that was rippling through the entire travel industry. We work a lot with travel agents, and we were supposed to have a group of 52 going in April, and it was, okay, well, will it be okay then? Will it not? And
Hard questions. Yeah, it was crazy.
yeah. And I remember because we had some people were like, oh, everything should be fine by summer. Oh, by fall, absolutely. Everything's going to be great. And here we are in December. We're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, we've had a lot of deadlines.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So the group that you were there, they left. They
Yes.
came back to the US.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we're not able to go back, I believe, for a minute.
Yeah. So they were able to, and that was one of the big things, because they were flying back into New York. They were pretty much all from New York. And so that was kind of the, how was it? How were things in the airport? And they said at that time, there was some, I guess, tension, you would say, but nothing, they hadn't instituted any health checks yet. And it was really right before it really exploded, because I remember it had like the worst cold in the world. And when I went to go see the doctor, it was they had to determine whether or not they should screen me for COVID. And it was like, oh, well, you haven't been near anybody who's traveled to one of the highly infected countries, so we're not going to worry about it. Did I maybe have it? I don't know, because I didn't have what they tested me for, so who knows? But that's how early it was, is that it was really hard to get tested unless you had a known connection.
Well, yeah, there were no tests available until more recently.
Right.
I mean, yeah. So.
Yeah.
But now, are you referring? This was in the States when you got back.
Yeah.
So that was was there any measures taken at that point overseas? In the departing airport.
Really not.
Not at that time.
No, not at that time. I remember when they finally had the first repatriation flight, I was able to get Belghit signed up for that. And he sent me pictures from the airport. And it's, this was before people were wearing masks, and it is packed in there. Marrakesh airport, I'm sure that's not a huge airport.
I've seen the footage actually. Yeah, it was kind of like people are just ready to leave, and
yeah,
it was
and the plane, every single seat is filled, but at the time, the numbers in Morocco were still very, very low. So Morocco seemed to have been very proactive. They wanted to shut things down before it had the chance to get out of control.
Well, they closed all the borders immediately, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. And they stopped travel between cities, and they had to get
talking about quarantine. That is an extreme level of quarantine. That's how they did it there. But I guess it worked for a minute, because for a long time their rates were low, and compared to Europe and other countries, including the US.
Right. And in a lot of places, the rates are still really low. Even when we're talking about Casablanca, where they have the highest rates in the country, they're still in the single digit thousands. And so for a city that size, when you compare that to the US, like my county in Massachusetts has multiple times more cases than that. And so comparatively, I think overall they've been really good about stopping it from getting out of control the way it has here in the US. And down in the Sahara, I know they don't have any more cases. At least they didn't when we were there a couple months ago. But
that's
by region.
Well, that's also a good fact, because a lot of the travel is done outside of major cities. Especially a lot of your trips itineraries focus on the eastern, southern, areas, which is more of the internal mountains and really the desert. So and with the camps and everything, so it's a little less populated. There is more air. It's ventilated up. So and ultimately, if someone is pretty much not sick, there's a very little chance of someone getting the disease over there. So it makes it a little bit more, I guess, safer in a way if you look at it that way. But again, there's definitely a challenge with it. Now, again, certainly the reason I'm bringing that up is because ultimately we are talking about travel, and that is your main destination, and would like to make sure that the audience understands that the country has taken quite a few measures to ensure not only the regular population, or the Moroccans themselves are in safe mode, but also it was more about making sure that, because the tourism industry is a huge there. I mean, it's one of the main, I guess, income revenues. And certainly, the last thing you want is having issues with international audiences and international travelers in the country. We're having cases that will impact a lot of problems, right? And create a lot of issues for them. So that's one of the main reasons I'm actually addressing more of the opportunity, that there is more to it than people may think. There's not like, just being in a resort, cluster with people. You're a little bit, of a natural, aspect of it. So Megan, that being said, you obviously deal with travel agencies, as you said. You also deal with the airlines, and so those two groups have been literally suffering since the beginning of this. Now, were there any changes that affected you guys in terms of rates, in terms of just protocols, and also would like to make sure that people understand that it has been a lot of work that's being done in those areas to make sure that travel is a little safer and it's protected, and to welcome a little bit back the folks and hopefully just start potentially venturing into destinations.
Yeah.
So what is that vision?
So I have been very pleasantly surprised that as the flights have resumed, the rates have not skyrocketed. That was one of my big fears, is that them being out of work for so long, suddenly travel was going to become prohibitively expensive. Thankfully, I think they realized that that making it expensive would be prohibitive. And so a lot of the rates we're seeing are staying the same. We are seeing a lot more cleaning and a lot of attention to following the protocols. When, as I mentioned briefly, we were there a couple of months ago because the country reopened, we needed to get an idea of what things were like on the ground. And everything from everybody wearing the masks to using hand sanitizer to doing everything touchless as much as possible, it was all very clear that they were being cognizant of this new risk. They weren't acting like, oh, nothing's happened, we're just back to business. I do know that we also spoke with someone who is a flight attendant on Southwest, I believe she works for. And she was saying that she has also seen on their airlines a lot of very increased cleaning. It's all wiped down between every flight, and more so than it was before. She's been in the industry for a lot of years, and she said that things used to be clean thoroughly after every plane disembarkment, but then things got very lax for a while, and it was actually pretty gross before. But they got everything is very carefully cleaned now, and everything I've heard is that flying is still very safe right now.
Well, what I've heard also is that certainly there are measures they're taking. So obviously the cleaning, the frequency, the type of cleaners that they use, also the filtrations have been all revamped and with high quality, to prevent any type of I guess aerosol type of concepts especially in a closed environment as a plane.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, the airports, I mean, the mask, everybody has to be, wearing face masks and so on and so forth. So all these protocols ultimately should suffice to control. Obviously, people have to maintain their distance, social distance, and all that stuff. It's hard to do on a plane when you're sitting like 2 feet or 1 foot away from the next, or maybe even inches if you're sharing seats.
Yeah.
But certainly, I mean, but also they added the measures of the testing. I remember in the beginning they had like 2 tests. You had to do a rapid, and you have to do the tradition, exactly, the PCR. So those were like the first one. I think then they also had you had to do them back to back, right? But now they changed that a little bit, and you have to do 3 days in advance or something like that.
Yes. So of course it's destination specific. For example, Mexico doesn't require any. Morocco, you do have to have a negative PCR test administered within 72 hours before you get on the plane. And so I will say, having that, because when you're checking in, they check that. If you don't have it, you're not getting on that plane. So that helped a lot as well. And we had some travelers who were traveling through Paris to do that. And the same thing, they had to print out 2 copies because it was going to be checked in the US and it was going to be checked again in Paris. So there's, in addition to all of those measures, knowing that everybody on that flight, granted 3 days, if people are reckless in that time, they could have picked it up.
Or exposed to it in between, yeah.
Right, but that also helps lower the risk a lot. Um, Within domestic travel, it's not required, but it's all destination specific.
So I mean, they obviously take it serious, and certainly they've really quarantined, and I believe what they had also in Morocco is that they anyone that has a case reported, they quarantine the whole family, and they did a lot of extreme, and they took a lot of extreme measures. You
Yeah.
don't go home. They stay in no hotel, until after they get released from hospitals. They have like different checkpoints. I mean, they have so many measures in place to prevent. Now that's as far as the overall travel. But then so you get to the destination, there are hotels as well. What can we talk about? What can we say about the hotels and their way of dealing with the COVID currently and
So,
right after the pandemic
yeah,
started?
I was very pleasantly surprised. So when we first got over there, one of the first places we stayed was actually down the Sahara. So that was a private riad. Nobody else was around, so we didn't have to. Nothing felt different. It was just us, and so that didn't seem different at all. But we went, even going to some of the hotels down there. As soon as you walk in the door, there's a foot pedal hand sanitizer thing. So again, nothing to touch. There's everybody's in masks, lots of the plexiglass barriers. And we also have found that every hotel has provided hand sanitizer, disposable masks. And so some of them also provided gloves, some of them provided some other things, but everybody made sure that you had everything available. And they also do temperature checks everywhere. Even going into we were going to go into Marjan, which is the Moroccan equivalent of, like, say, a super Walmart, where to get in, they do a quick temperature scan. I know it's not perfect, but it is an indicator. And hand sanitizer, there's no question. They will spray it on your hands. And, you
Optional.
know, I was running into Starbucks and she said, okay, nope, give me your wrist, because there also it's a little less intrusive. They're able to do it on your wrist, so you don't have to have someone close to your face, because again, that's uncomfortable in these times.
Mhm.
Everybody wearing masks. We went all over. We went to Wejda, to Fenidik, in Tangier, down in Marrakesh and Essaouira. Same thing across the country. We would find the same thing in the hotels. So it was all, and we actually, when we were in Fenidik, we saw what they did to prepare one of the rooms, because it happened to be right next to ours. And there was a late arrival. Someone was checking in. And so there was a team of, I think, 4 or 5 people who came in. They had like I guess, some kind of aerosol or sanitizer, fogger, and they went over everything. And, it was very thorough. And so
It's
that was,
becoming popular over there.
I'm sorry.
It's popular, that whole machine thing with the
Yeah.
spray. Yep.
And
It's
so I thought that was great, because also it wasn't when someone checks out, they sanitize it and say, okay, it's good, and assume nobody's going to go in there. It's right before someone checks in, so that whatever happened in the meantime, that it's just been sanitized for you.
again, I mean, that's so for the audience watching as well as for anyone that wants or entertains the idea of travel. I mean, it's important to know that all measures are taken, and to a point that are more extreme than we might even be familiar with locally here.
Yeah.
Because again, they want to make sure that people still go to them and visit, and that the travel is still going. But you can only do that if you can promise a level of hygiene or a level of scrutiny that is to the highest level. So the folks that travel, your clients, since the beginning of this, how have their experience been? And ultimately, I'm sure there's either cancellations or there. I know you've booked some trips 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
How was that impacted? So
Thankfully, most of our clients were okay with just holding off. And so they're going to kind of wait and see. We have some people who, when borders open, said, okay, we feel comfortable to go ahead and do it. Others said, well, we want to get our vaccine first now that it's in sight, and so they're going to hold off just a little bit longer. But I think that most people are wanting to wait for the vaccine. That's been the biggest thing that we've seen. But they are definitely itching to travel as soon as.
Everybody is. I mean, it's been a very, like, again, I'm used to traveling, and this year,
Yeah.
I mean, we got lucky to get into a cruise before the actual shutdown, and that was it. We haven't done anything. Our kids been home, all the summer, and obviously they've been pretty much home, summer or not summer, because they're being in school, from home right now. So it's a little tough across the board, and you can feel the stress in a lot of folks, and because they can't go anywhere, even across states. If you cross state lines now, you have to quarantine. Right. So people are really either taking chances or they're just basically, are waiting. And now vaccines are out. That's the good news. Right. And hopefully they'll get everybody will get a fair share in the next few months. And, ultimately there's enough of them that, with more, I guess, brands coming out, we should be able to cover quite a bit. And I think even internationally, around the world. I mean, I know in Morocco, they just got their supplies, 60 million, I think, doses that they got from China. So from at least from your destination or your preferred destination from your, for your travel business, that is actually a good thing to know that the destination that you're going to, they actually are using all the tech, all the measures, and also they have the preparation and they have the vaccination necessary for the locals. So the spread of the infection will ultimately be eradicated.
Right. And something else that was very interesting that we noticed when we were there. So, of course, in Morocco, there's the police or gendarmerie, whatever. I always forget what they're called.
Gendarmerie is like state troopers and the others are locals.
Yeah. So, they do checkpoints. Sometimes it's just to make sure you have all your insurance and all of that. And one thing we noticed, especially around Marrakesh, because there are travel restrictions for Moroccans about intercity travel. And because we had our private car, Belghit is Moroccan, we were not clearly travelers. We got stopped just getting into Marrakesh 5 different times. And some people were really giving him a hard time about okay, we want to see all this documentation, because his license plate was from across the country. And they're like, no, you're not supposed to be over here. So they are taking it very seriously. They want to protect the cities. And I mentioned we had some travelers over there at the same time. They were with one of our professional drivers. So it was a transportation vehicle. They didn't face any of that. So yeah.
Well, that's what they did. They opened it up to the tourists, and they have free reign to roam around the country.
Yep.
But the locals have limitations as to where they can travel, depending on what city you're in. So it's an interesting, concept that they use there. So it's good for for the visitors, but it's not good for the locals.
Right.
But again, I get it. I mean, the industry is important, and that's revenue, and they cannot possibly have all these infrastructures just idle, and they have to maintain some sort of business level, just like we are looking forward here as well. So it is a challenge. Well, again, we can't compare Morocco to the US in terms of, I guess, operations and things like that. But in this instance, they actually came up to play, and they really raised the occasion nicely. So I could say that is a good thing to hear. So your customers there, the clients that were there with you, did they feel good about their trip when they went around? They felt safe.
Yeah,
they good did. Testimonials.
Absolutely. Their biggest thing is they felt very bad for all of the people who are suffering because they've been without work for so long. As you mentioned, tourism is the 3rd biggest industry in Morocco, and especially Marrakesh. They don't have some other industry to fall back on. That city was really suffering. So that was kind of their biggest thing, is I think they ended up overspending just because they wanted to give so much back.
Well, I think a lot of folks, a lot of different industries, you had to invest to prove that, you're worthy of the visitors and that you can handle, the volume, you can handle the influx, you can handle even medically, that you have the preparations and the hospital system and things like that, the clinics and whatever. Although I don't think I've heard of any cases of, contamination or anything from any foreigners or visitors into the country, at least that I know of. Am I wrong? You're in the travel industry. You probably hear a lot more about those things. And I'm sure if that was the case, it would be all over the Department of State. Do not travel, because that's the first place where they put the warnings.
Right. And yeah, we haven't heard anything. And of course, we have people over there we work closely with who are at all different levels, federally, locally, very involved in the tourism industry. They would know about it if it happened. And there's nothing that they've heard.
That's good to hear. Now, I know that's your main destination, and I know you've done other things, I think, in terms of your, I guess, diversified portfolio of trips and vacation. And have you experienced similar in any other destination?
We actually haven't really done much else since this happened, just because, again, everything was coming to a halt, with the exception of a trip to Mexico. And that is a resort trip. And so that is a little bit different, because once you're on a resort, it's a lot more self-contained. They are everything that we've heard about the resorts, and particularly this resort, was that the staff is wonderful. Everybody's following protocols. And that's really what matters, because you don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing, because you're not around everybody else. It's all about what's there. And that's something that, speaking with other colleagues, is finding is that a lot of people are showing more trust in these all-inclusive resorts that have demonstrated that they are not just that they have protocols in place, but that they're following them. And so it's a lot less touring around and more going to some place and staying there.
So whoever is there, and you don't get a lot of interactions with, a local population or other travelers, in multiple destinations. It's all pretty much kind of, I guess, concentrated in one area with the same, the same folks. It's not like, there's more traffic in there.
Right.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's contained environment, if you want to call it that way, right?
Yeah.
So great. Now, I know you are still planning on various tours and different things, and I know you've also been very creative in different things, in terms of your destination, in terms of what you offer as an agency. Again, just to be clear, this is Wanderlust Voyages from Massachusetts, right?
Yes.
And so this is an actual US-based agency, and you do operate, and you do work with operators and travel agencies all across the nation. And basically, so you basically co-chart different trips into the destination. But you are the one that primarily fixes, and sets up everything in the destination. So in Morocco, hotels, transportation, the whole work, right?
Correct. So we have our own drivers. We work directly with the hotels. And so instead of, if someone wants a trip and they go to the travel agent that they trust to plan all their trips, that travel agent doesn't have to negotiate with 20 different suppliers on the ground. They just talk to us. We have those relationships. We keep track of all of that, and they get it all in a nice customized package.
Excellent. Now, your creativity has, if I'm not mistaken, you do have different exotic pieces within the itineraries. And you also do different types of tourism. One being the culinary type of one.
Yeah.
and I know now we're going to talk about it in a minute, in more details, but I know you've done these trips, or at least you were planning trips where people can go and learn how to cook, authentic, food and things like that. So different, stuff that has the authentic, ends to it. So what can you tell us about that?
So we have one of the last big trips, it was in January, and we often forget about how that was actually this year, but it was a group of chefs from New York. And so we took them to learn how to cook. And I would say that's probably what kind of spurred our latest project. So we love the cooking classes there. We have ones that we work with, and they're always very popular. And one of the things that I had been doing since being in quarantine is I was cooking more. And I started posting pictures of it like you do, like everyone did this quarantine.
Everyone
But
did. Yeah.
we decided that a good way to bring a little bit of Morocco home would be to actually start sharing the recipes. So like many travel agents who needed to pivot and find a way to keep interest in destinations when people can't actually travel there, we did the same thing. And ours came in the form of a cookbook. So
Sweet.
we're very literally, this one is focused just on the cookies and sweets so far, because we are planning a larger one, but that is going to be a huge undertaking. Moroccan cuisine, a lot of people think of tagine and couscous. Well, even within tagine, there's 20 different kinds. And then all of the salads and all of the breads and all of the other types of roasted meats and everything like that. So, but we started with just, something small, and has a lot of the recipes that I've been making for a long time. A lot of them have come from Belghit's sisters and nieces. He's translated them into English for me. I have translated them into what American cooks would understand. And so we are so excited about that, and hoping that since travel is going to be resuming, I will be able to meet with more of our chefs over there to get those recipes. Like there's a particular lamb with parsley sauce that we absolutely love at La Maison Bleue. And so I'm going to work with their chef to translate that recipe to share it. And the Rafisa orchard at Riyadh Wow, again, they make it with pigeon, something we don't really get here, but can modify that to chicken. And
Close enough.
that as well. It's,
Taste
same
is
thing.
different. Yeah.
So we are very excited about that. And that's also available on our website.
So the book, it's
Yeah.
primarily all the sweets, which
Yep.
for people that are watching, it's not your typical Middle Eastern sweets. It's a little different. There's a lot of almonds and honey, and it's very you're talking about real sweets, but it's also rich in terms of the content. So a lot of calories if you're watching the weight, but it's all good. I mean, you will enjoy it. There's nothing like a good platter of sweets on with your breakfast or as a snack. Um, but I love the idea, because it's funny, because when I mentioned earlier, my first gig was at Disney, and my role was a tour guide. So a lot of the stuff I used to actually talk about. It was part of my pitch, right? And but the fact is that Disney, as a company, they've created that opportunity where people may not be able to travel, but they had something local. It's similar to what you're doing. I mean, while people are not traveling, they can at least get a taste of it. And now that you test it, because you can fix these things, like, well, I want to go actually get it from the locals, and and experience it in the whole environment, which will be something that will be a unique experience for those folks. So again, I personally look forward to actually seeing the book, and hopefully using some of the recipes. I'm not gonna cook them. I'm gonna see if I can get my dear partner in crime here at home, my wife, to actually fix some of those. But if not, I'll attempt. I mean, I'm sure the recipes and the process is easy, right? Some of
them. I will say, so shebekia is the one thing that I have literally been trying to master that recipe for about 6 years. And
there's a lot of different ones, though, right? I mean, different ways they make it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that I would ask his sisters, his nieces, and the professional baker in Casablanca. I don't think I ever got a chance to, and also Moroccan friends here. And all I would forget is like, oh, we don't make that. We just buy that. And I'm like, how am I supposed to do it? Finally, I have gotten it. They came out perfectly. So that recipe alone, because there was something unique about that recipe that was very different from every other recipe, and it really solved the problem I was having with it. So that alone is worth getting the book for. If you like shebekia.
Listen, and it's not easy. I mean, there's a lot more
No.
of this stuff. But so, listen, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm excited for you and for the opportunity. And I know you guys do provide a very rich itinerary, and packages and itineraries that are very educational. There's a lot more fun into it. And you also, it's not just the standard hotels, but you do like the riads, different things that are like you could be in gazing the Milky Way from Merzouga and other places, in the desert. And it's even the tents. And I've I was looking forward to my trip, but that didn't work. but we will. It's a promise.
Yeah.
But definitely, being just under the stars in the desert, and even the tents are, from what I know, they have complete, climate control, full beds, and I mean it's very sophisticated in the middle of nowhere. And so for anyone watching, and if you do like to travel, COVID will be eventually gone. I mean, we've gone through the worst, I think, and I try to keep positive that we did. We're certainly closer to the solution than we were when we began a few months back. The vaccines are in, people are getting optimistic, although, depending where you are, there's some challenges still in getting people to really adhere and get it, but eventually will go away. And I've stated this before, that we always have to prepare for the future. I mean, the present is here, we're dealing with it, but the life has to continue. It's not going to end. I mean, we hope not. We hope that we'll enjoy more. And travel is important. And, getting some sort of a getaway, any getaway is important for people to just, decompress mentally and physically, do things, activities, and so on and so forth, because it is stressful to be home. And travel also gives you exposure to cultures, to different things. And I do appreciate the fact that you guys took, that to the next level. I mean, being in the travel industry and being a travel agent is not easy, as people may think. There's a lot of components that take place, and you guys do it and execute it rather well. And I know about the trips, and I've known some of the folks that did go on the trips, and they're basically, the testimonies are all positive 5-star reviews types. So we will hold that, and hopefully one day we will go and we'll be the ones actually, maybe we'll do a show right there when we're on a trip. We'll talk about how safe, how it is, very appealing, acceptable. There's no risk. I mean, the risk is always going to be there. I mean, nobody can guarantee that there's no risk, but it can be COVID or anything else. But, the travel agencies, they do make sure that, the hotels and the places that they deal with, and they actually have agreements with, that they perform at the highest rate and the highest level to ensure the safety and the health of the clients. Again, so it's somewhat an endorsement, but that's just my passion for the actual industry. And so I'm actually in health and travel, and those are some of my things that I've been doing in my life. And so I appreciate all the combination of both. And again, so Megan, you are planning some more trips, in the near future.
Yeah. So right now, our big thing is, our next big one is a golf trip in February.
Golfers.
Yes, we are taking them to. It's a little funny. I had to go back and forth with the person, be like, are you sure you want this? Because literally they're starting with 18 holes the day they land.
Wow.
So talking about health, they are going to be a very active trip. So.
Well, Megan, just to that point, people may not realize that there are a lot of golf courses, international golf courses in Morocco, and you can actually have tournaments. They do have tournaments, and it's a destination that people may not know about. So again, I just felt to make that statement, but I'll leave you to that. I mean, you can give us more about it.
Yeah, so golf has been, I mean, starting all the way back in 19, I want to say 1917 or something was when the first one was opened in Tangier, and then 1927, and from there there's now 20 courses, and golf has long been a favorite pastime of the royals. So the King Hassan, the Hassan II Trophy, is one of the big tournaments that's held every year there. The Lala Mariam Cup is also held. Both of those are in Rabat at Royal Golf Dar es Salaam. And there's, of course, wonderful golf courses down in Marrakesh. Samana has one of the tournaments, hosts one of the tournaments for the PGA European Tour as well. So there's golf courses that were designed by Jack Nicklaus. He personally designed the one at Michelefin up in the Atlas Mountains. So you have these kind of desert-like courses in Marrakesh. You have ones by the ocean up in Benedict and Tangier. You have ones in the Atlas Mountains up in Michelefin, all kinds of different courses. And they are spectacular. And what better way to kind of mix your favorite pastime with an incredible, warm, welcoming culture. So it's a great alternative. And the weather for golfing is wonderful pretty much year round. Of course, in the Atlas Mountains, that one is going to close in the winter because they get snow. But down in Marrakesh, it's absolutely wonderful. There's coastal ones in Essaouira and Agadir that are tempered enough for even playing in the summer. So it's an excellent place for golf.
So how would you compare those courses to the international courses or the locals? And for someone from the US, said, well, I'm used to my golf course that is super, beautiful and it's a nice green. How would that compare? I mean, considering Morocco is people thinking it's a desert, it's not that green.
Right.
So how would you, rate that, in comparison?
Well, I would definitely say look at some pictures. They,
That's easy.
When you see some of the shots, especially the Marrakesh courses, because you have the Atlas Mountains providing this incredible backdrop, and the greens are spectacular. They are very well maintained, and they use a lot of the natural flora. Sorry. Well, we don't want fauna on the course.
Definitely not. Well, unless it's a cat.
Yeah. And so you have these olive trees along the edges, or the almond trees, and it's incredible. There's also several that are built kind of through natural waterways as well. So I would say that it would stack up. I mean, it's not going to be a lush tropical one like a course in Hawaii, but it's definitely, it is beautiful courses.
Well, I'm sure the folks that will be on those trips will have a good time and will enjoy every bit of it. And I know, again, you do a lot of different things, from trekking to mountain climbing to local, culture and so on and so forth. So again, anyone watching, if you are interested, and I personally have referred folks, and I always say, if someone wants to go to Morocco, I have the right agency for you that actually will tailor things for you accordingly, whether you're a couple, whether you're a family or a group, and they can do it whether it's religious trips or otherwise. So they make you, the food wise, whatever you plan, they can make it and tailor it. Am I correct in that statement?
Absolutely. And one of the, I would say, advantages that we have is because we are based in the US, we do have a better understanding of what American travelers are usually looking for. Nothing's going to get lost in translation. And because we are here, we are just a quick phone call away, super easy to get a hold of. You're not dealing with a 5 or 6 hour time difference.
And Megan, to your point, being like my first career path was in the travel. I mean, most of the travel agencies, at least the ones that are Moroccan based, they actually cater more to Europe.
Yes.
Very little activities in the US. They operate with some tour operators that may be in the US, but it's not the same. Or they were operators from England that try to pitch some of the packages to the US clients. But to your point, you have that unique angle, which is you're local, you understand it, you understand both cultures, you understand both, the needs, and
Right.
you tailor it accordingly, and you make sure that Americans, because we are unique, let's call it
Yeah.
what it is. We have a different, expectation when we go anywhere. As Americans, I can literally, I know it. I travel a lot too, and we do like expect to be treated in a different rate, the different level. It's what we do. Yeah, the customer is always right. We want to make sure that we get top-notch service, and that ultimately all humans like that. But I think as Americans, we do have that expectation by default. You just walk in like, I'm American. I deserve more, and and rightfully so. You pay the money. You want to get the right service. And so that is being, I guess, customized accordingly with Megan and Wanderlust Voyages.
Yeah.
See, I think I'm going to work with you guys now.
Yeah. Perfect, because if things keep growing the way we're expecting a travel boom, we may be looking to hire.
All right. Well, at least I know I have a home. That's always good to know. But no. So again, I really personally, and I know you will share this opinion. Travel is important, and again, people do have multiple destinations. I like to cruise. I like to travel exotic. I do a lot of different things. But I know it's a must-do destination. Not me saying it, but that's a lot of people. I talk to a lot of folks in my circles, and I say, oh, I'm originally from that's definitely a place I want to go. Or they say, I've been there, one or the other. So if they haven't been there, they probably wouldn't want to go. I've had some of my personal bosses, I guess people I reported to in my industry have gone. They've done the highest mountain in Africa. Well, is it the second highest mountain in Africa? Tokal. They've done some climbing. They've done different things in there, surfing. I mean, you can literally go crazy. So it is going to be fun. It will be safe, as safe as any place, I would say, if not even safer, because they do really take it extreme.
They do.
They do. I mean, they're not joking. They're not playing there. There's no, when they say we're going to close, they literally close the neighborhood overnight if there's a few cases extra. So,
right.
And they've done that, over and over the last few months. So it is crazy. But again, when you select, you always look for the best rating. You always look for the safest, type of, group that you want to go with. From this platform, I mean, I know Megan spares no expense, and Belghit, same thing. They do take care of their business. They make sure that their trips, are 100%, satisfactory to the clients. And, like I said, I have not heard anything, and I'm sure that will never happen, that they will always go beyond the call of duty to make sure that everything is there and that the folks are taken to the country and brought back. I mean, as a matter of fact, when you guys brought your last trip, there were people that were still stranded, but you still managed to be here. So we're not going into the details, but that's the extent I would say. They will make sure that if you go, you come back. And come back healthy and safe and sound. So again, travel is important. Megan with us from Wanderlust Voyages. So Megan, your website is wanderlustvoyages.com, I'm assuming? No.
Unfortunately not.
That'll be easy, right?
Travel.com. Yeah, so we've been trying to get wanderlustvoyages.com. It doesn't go anywhere. Someone's just holding on to the domain for no good reason. But
I hate those.
Yeah.
Well, there are people actually do hoard, domains because they eventually sell them. There is a resale market for those.
We've tried to buy it and we couldn't even get. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. Our website.
How can we connect with you?
Yeah. It is wanderlustvoyagestravel.com. Make sure you have the S in Voyages. But wanderlustvoyagestravel.com, we have some group trips up there, but really those are incredible inspiration. We don't really anticipate running any public group trips in at least the next 6 months, because it's just too risky. It's one thing if you're a group with people but we do not want to put strangers together in a group. That's not going to happen. But still, check it out. Those are some fantastic inspiration. Each itinerary has a little bit of a different focus, and so that will help give you an idea of what there is to do. Some of them focus on cooking classes, some of them focus on the history, on the culture, family visits, homestays, spas, and all kinds of things. So check it out. And also, you can follow us on Instagram. We are,
I do. A lot
yeah,
of beautiful photos and beautiful shots, and very exciting. It makes you feel like you. I actually sometimes we share those.
yeah.
I just love those natural, shots. Also, how can someone get the Moroccan Sweets book?
So that is on our website as well. If you just go there, we now have it on our front page. We have 3 little buttons. The bottom one is check out our cookbook.
All right. Well, there you have it. So you can have a little bit of a taste of Morocco right here in the meantime, and then you can plan your next family trip or your next group trip with Megan and Belghit under the Wanderlust Voyages, and of course Wanderlust Voyages travel.com. Now that we've established that, and yeah, so listen, some of these trips need to be pre-planned over time. I know a lot of uncertainty, but certainly just because if you're thinking Morocco, think Wanderlust Voyages. That's all I have to say myself personally. And again, I don't know of any other agencies personally that are actually as very focused to what they do. And I'm sure there's probably others, but I don't know of them personally. But I do know who I know, and and our folks here, are definitely worthy trying them and making sure that we support their I guess venture, and whatever they're doing, they're making the cultures connect, and people happy, and their dreams are coming true. So I would literally just keep that as my wish for everyone. You want to go somewhere to have a good time, it is important. And that's it. I think for unless, do you have anything to say to the folks that are listening and watching
I
as a
don't think
message?
so. I mean, just I think you've said it very well. Morocco is one of the safest places and one of the most incredible. It has something for everyone. If you think that, well, maybe you'd like Morocco, but you're not sure, don't worry. You will love it, whether you're into the cities or rural or whatever. We can find something to meet your needs. It is the most incredible country I have ever been to. And personally, I can't wait to go back again, even though I've been there over a dozen times.
Hey, well, I mean, the last time I was actually booked to go in April, and it was just the week that they actually shut down, so we were not able to make it. Then we rescheduled for August, didn't work out either because they were shut down at the time as well. So we're still planning the next trip. We don't know when.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, still have family there, so we every now and then we have to go and check in on the grandpas, and and kids want to see their grandparents. But yeah, I mean, hopefully everything's safe. And again, any destination, all the travel. So also from the platform, I do feel the pain of all our travel industry and the hospitality business in general, airlines, cruise lines. I mean, everybody's been impacted. I do have friends in the cruise line industry, and hopefully we'll have a chance to have them also on the show, and just to share with us their ordeal from the cruise line experience, which is a whole different world. Cruises usually are the first one that get hit with anything bug. So and it's funny, and we'll almost close in here, but we were on a ship in February when this whole thing started booming. And while we were at sea, there were 3 ships that were docked for quarantine. In Fort Lauderdale, there was the Japan, and there was another one, I think, in another island or another country. So they all happened while I was at sea on a ship. And I actually did a show just how, Royal Caribbean at the time handled it with the initial, I guess, information they had. If you traveled from China or you made contact, you could not possibly, you have to test. They did all that. But that, at the time, with what we knew, they did well. And I know after that, everything got, a little more tougher, and it's with the restrictions, a little hard to be with, 7 days on a ship with masks on and limited access. I mean, it's a little different when you put it for 6 hours or 5 hours or 3 hours in a flight. But if you have to live with it, it's a little harder. I mean, and stuff. So again, today is not a cruise line, show, but we'll definitely have one that just focuses on how that impact, that industry, but it's still related to travel. And that being said, I want to just thank everybody watching the show tonight, as well as listening on the radio. I want to thank you, Megan, for the accepting the invitation first and give us the enlightenment. Again, the purpose of our mission and the mission and the purpose of this show, of this channel in general, is to educate, inspire, enlighten, and motivate. So we do all that in hopefully in one show. And we just want to make sure that people that are watching, they can learn something. And I always said, if you could learn one or two things from any of the shows, that's the key. That's important. Now, some people may value a lot of the content. Some may take anything, and some may think, well, okay, this is not for me. It's all good. But at the end of the day, it's we wanted to share with you guys the impact, and Megan and the Wanderlust Voyages is not the only one who's been actually suffering with this. I mean, all the other agencies that they deal with have been pretty much in a real pickle. I mean, it's very difficult for everybody, maintaining staff, maintaining your overhead, and all the stuff. Also income. I mean, to stay in business, a lot of businesses. I do have a prospective, show that we'll talk about restaurants and the restaurant industry and how we get impacted. So stay tuned for that one. But the idea is really, these are things that are like, real. We experience them, and, but hearing it from the people that have experienced them directly and how we impact them sometimes is a little different from where we just kind of like, oh, we think that's what's happening, and we still have to be positive and keep, a good spin on things. And, and Megan, you've done very tremendously well with that, because you looked at the cup half full as opposed to half empty, or rather the opposite, half empty. So I think that's what it is, right? So you actually looked at the positive side, half full, right?
Yes.
Half full, yeah. So we can debate that one. But the fact is, you looked at it from the positive, full cup, yeah. You looked at the positive, and you took, a difficult situation and turned into positive, and you really spent it nicely. And you made the best time by creating that particular book for people to see, to test, and you're still building for the next, and you're still determined that it will come back, and it will come back stronger than ever. And that is great attitude. And I hope that everybody that is in the same industry and whatever destinations you choose, continue focusing. It's gonna be better. Always think that it's always gonna be better. Things always work out eventually. So it's just a matter of being patient. It's hard. We're not saying that we're not, taking it light, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We have to keep positive, and we will prevail as a world, as humans, and things eventually. We've been through worse over the centuries, and over the last, 100 years at least, a lot of crazy stuff happened. This is just one more, and, we will eventually, bypass it. Now, it's never good for people that have been impacted, more directly, when some people have lost their loved ones and so on and so forth. So we're never going to take light on that either. But it is unfortunate, it's something that has been impacting everybody. And we just hope for the best for all, whether it's individuals, families, businesses. We wish everyone success and health. And, we're just about the end of the year.
Yes.
We're about to say goodbye to 2020. We're only a couple of days away from New Year's Eve, and we hope that the 2021 will bring in a lot more prosperity, health, stability, everything that we wish for, joy, peace, you name it. If it's good, we want it. And so that being said, I want to wish everybody, if we don't speak before then, or if you don't hear from me before then, or from Megan, Happy New Year's. Happy New Year and Happy New Year's Eve. Enjoy the New Year's Eve. Whatever plans you have. I know we're gonna have virtual Times Square now. I think that's what the plan is. So it's gonna be unique. But you know what? Again, making the best of it, right? So enjoy. Have a happy New Year, everyone, and stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you at the next show. From the iHealth channel and iHealth Radio, Hurricane H here. Megan, thank you for being with us. And
thank you for having me.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.